We're going to turn our attention to JOZY Altidore. And guys, we've spoken before about his time with Toronto FC, but a lot of that had to do with injuries and just not getting into a lot of games, and maybe was it time to move forward. But now, in recent news, it sparked that conversation again. As we know, JOZY was called into the US men's national team, but did not in fact play in that Sunday friendly against Trinidad and Tobago. But it was the US men's national head coach, Greg Berhalter, who's actually spurned this revival in conversation around JOZY and TFC, because he said while JOZY was dealing with an injury and didn't want to play him on Sunday, he said that there was also speculation on a transfer when it came to JOZY Altidore. So I'm going to start with you, Gareth. Is it time for a change of scenery for JOZY?
I think it is completely in JOZY Altidore's court here. He does have a no movement clause. He needs to agree to any move that will see him leave, but I do think it is a case of where there's smoke, there is fire. Altidore's comments that he made online based upon Jeff Carlisle of ESPN's report, I think that kind of added fuel to the flames and just added to the speculation, completely unnecessarily so. But Altidore still has more to offer. This is the thing. Last season was a complete letdown for the player. It was a letdown for the club. And I think that leads to a little bit of mistrust on both sides. I don't think that it should be the case. He's a club legend. He's well respected by his fellow teammates as well. But there's no way around it. When you're a designated player, you need to produce. I know the former coaching staff that's now moved on to Los Angeles Galaxy, they were really frustrated by, the extra weight that Altidore was carrying last year and him not being in optimal shape. And what happened? He got hurt again. 2 goals scored from a designated player in a year like that simply isn't good enough. So for me, if Altidore is back to vintage Altidore, even though he's on the wrong side of 30, Andy, I still think that he has a massive role to play with this club. But as the bridge starting to burn between the two sides, it at least seems like that as an outsider. The truth hasn't come out. Both sides have kept their lips shut, which I think is a smart move at this time. But certainly there's an issue here. And if there is an issue, it perhaps is better for both sides to move on.
And oftentimes when a new coaching staff comes on board, players don't get the benefit of the doubt of what they've done before. It's what have you done for me now? You almost have to prove yourself all over again with a new coaching staff. That's going to be another challenge for JOZY Altidore. And Ollie, I guess the big question too, I mean, he's a designated player, makes a lot of money. Has he lived up to that contract?
No, he hasn't. And look, no one's questioning what JOZY Altidore's done for Toronto FC and the importance of his place in the club's history. But I think too much of that stuff came into mind, really, when that contract was signed. I think he was being paid for the legacy he is one day going to leave and his accomplishments that had already happened, rather than really being paid with a projection ahead of what was to come as he got the wrong side of 30 and entered the latter stages of his career. So I don't think the contract was ever a great idea. But it's certainly gone probably worse than even pessimistic projections would have imagined. He's not even played 50% of Toronto FC's MLS minutes since signing that contract. Look, it's a testament to the strength of the organization that's been built in some ways, that TFC have been able to remain competitive while having a designated player who just hasn't been reliable in terms of his health and his production at the top end of their roster and earning a massive amount of money.
But if we do take a look at JOZY Altidore no longer donning the red, Gareth, what North American move would make sense for him?
Well, if it's within North America, I'm not sure what or who that MLS side would be that will take, a little bit of a pricey risk on JOZY Altidore. His reported over $6 million contract of last season, I'm told that it's significantly less for this upcoming season and the remainder of that contract, which may make him look like a more attractive option for a team that needs goals. And this player, when fit, when focused, he certainly is one of the top number 9s in all of Major League Soccer. Perhaps there's a team that's willing to take a risk, but really where they haven't been necessarily impacted like Major League Soccer has, at least on the surface level, is Liga MX. I think that there would be interest in Altidore's services. I think that it would satiate his competitive desires as well to still play at the highest level possible possible. It would still very much keep him right in the mix for the U.S. men's national team as well, where the argument can be made he's still their best option at that position as well. So I think that rather than Major League Soccer, maybe making, that trip, down south of the border into Mexico might be the best move for Altidore at this stage of his career.
Well, let's come full circle on this JOZY Altidore conversation and going back to Greg Berhalter. So, of course, after he said he wasn't going to play him in Sunday's game because of an injury, but also because of speculation that he was on the transfer market, JOZY then took to his Twitter account and said, "Don't believe everything you read. The devil is working overtime," which, by the way, I ended up picturing like this little devil and pitchfork on my shoulder. So it was kind of funny, that tweet a little bit, but obviously JOZY clearly not pleased with what he's hearing about him. So what do you make of that tweet though, Ollie, and him putting that out?
Well, first of all, the devil working overtime is also a description of Gareth Wheeler justifying his wildly fluctuating Paul Pogba takes. But other than that, I would say that I don't really know what to make of JOZY Altidore's tweet, because he doesn't really get into any specifics. Like, he's clearly unhappy, but is he unhappy at Toronto FC? Is he unhappy at the reporting? Is he unhappy at Greg Berhalter? We don't know, right? Like, I think inevitably these things always descend into, a kind of PR battle, and it's a bit of a shame, because I'm sure, if this is the end of JOZY Altidore at TFC, there'll probably be a bit of mud slung around, and you wish that wasn't the case for a player who's had such a lasting impact on the club. But yeah, I don't know what to make of it, because I don't really know what he's talking about.
Yeah, and Andy, the problem with making a statement like that, I understand what JOZY's doing, but the people that lose when a vague statement is put out like that is the fans. Because the fans care, right? They want to know what's going on. Toronto FC supporters love JOZY Altidore, and rightfully so, but just leaving everyone left to guess what that actually means, I don't necessarily think that's fair for any of the parties involved. There should be mutual respect between fans and club and player, and I just wish that if a player has something to say, they just come out and say it. And I think that that's kind of the best way forward with situations like this.